Oh, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So it's Tuesday, which means it's time for our weekly tier list. And I thought, considering we're entering a pretty fat NHL break, no games until February 22nd, that I would do a little bit of an updated vibes tier list heading into this break. How teams are feeling. Are they on an absolute heater? Are they slumping? How are they performing relative to their season goals? A vibe check on every single team. And here are the different tier lists. Love and Life, they're checking off all the boxes that they had on their preseason expectations coming into this break. Pretty hot, pretty darn happy. You're doing solid. You're excited for after this break. It's okay. Nothing's going horrible. Nothing's going absolutely fantastic. You're just perfectly fine. Hope that things somewhat improve after the break. And then pretty mad/nervous. Mad is more so that you're coming into this break maybe struggling a decent amount relative to a losing streak or not being in the spot that you were expected in the standings, or more, and then more so nervous is like you're losing some games heading into this break and then need this season to be over. Pretty self-explanatory. You had like playoff aspirations and you're not going to come close to the playoffs as of right now. Up first, Detroit. I think you got to be pretty darn happy. Under Todd McClellan, it has definitely been loving life. I could see you argue loving life for the Detroit Red Wings. They're like 15-5-1 under him. They look like a completely different team, and now they sit in a playoff spot. So yeah, I could see you arguing for loving life. I'll go with pretty darn happy as of right now. Chicago, it's okay. Connor Bedard is back to being elite after a little bit of a slow start. He's been at around point per game in his last 20 to 30 games, and he's basically the entire franchise at this point in terms of guys that actually matter. Alex Vlasic is putting up another solid season. Not like they had any serious standing predictions. Maybe you expected them to be a little bit better, but they were still across the board a bottom 3, bottom 4 team in the NHL. And as a result, they're going to get another top 5 pick and hopefully get Connor Bedard another stud forward or Matthew Schaefer. Ottawa, I'm going to go with it's okay. They've been losing some games heading into this break. That's where this really factors in. But I think you're still perfectly fine. You're in a playoff spot. If you're the Ottawa Senators, the rebuild is hopefully coming to an end. But you really thought heading into this break, if you finish strong, you would be safely in that third Atlantic spot. So you're not over the moon, but I think you're definitely closer to pretty darn happy than pretty mad/nervous. Pittsburgh need this season to be over, need to get to the draft lottery night. Hopefully we get a top 5 pick. It's over. It's over in terms of the Crosby-Malkin era, winning actual serious games come the springtime. They're rightfully so blowing it up with guys like Pettersson getting traded, blowing up the secondary pieces. It's not a good time to be a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, but they're probably going to get McKenna and DuPont swiftly after. Dallas, assuming if we knew for a fact that like they were pulling an LTIR thing and Heiskanen and Sagan were going to be ready on game 1 of the playoffs, I think you're loving life. We can't quite say that because Sagan's timeline was 4 to 6 months. He might be out multiple rounds. Heiskanen, I think, will be back by the playoffs, but they just got Granlund. They're playing a lot better as a team the last month or so. Pretty darn happy. I think you could argue for loving life, but not quite ready to go there. Boston, they're definitely closer to need this season to be over than it's okay, but they still could potentially make the playoffs. David Pastrnak is doing literally everything possible to potentially get this team into a playoff spot, but yeah, they're mad. They're not pretty mad. You could maybe change that tier list to just straight up mad, because it has definitely been an underwhelming season, in part because of signings like Lindholm and Zadorov. Florida Panthers, pretty darn happy. They're yet again going to safely make the playoffs, most likely in a top 2 spot in the Atlantic Division, maybe win the Atlantic Division. Yeah, just more of the same. If you're a Florida Panthers fan, you're pretty happy. Colorado fans probably were pretty mad/nervous after they traded Mikko Rantanen, but Martin Necas has looked fantastic for them early on. So I think that they're back to thinking it's okay. This team could potentially go on a run, maybe not top tier favorites, but you're pretty damn okay if you're a Colorado Avalanche fan right now. Edmonton, ever since they started, 0-3, 0-4, they've been up there with like Washington and Winnipeg for the best teams in the entire NHL. Draisaitl playing at a heart level. Connor McDavid's been awesome as well. Yeah, they're yet again a high-level contender. Stuart Skinner has somewhat stabilized his game relative to he had like an 860 in his first 12 games. But yeah, I think Edmonton's on this upswing. They're definitely going to be doing something at the deadline relatively soon. You're loving life yet again as a top-tier contender if you're the Edmonton Oilers. Calgary, a week ago, would have been pretty darn happy, considering they were in a playoff spot. Once the Vancouver Canucks kind of sold on JT Miller, you thought, oh, this team might seriously make the playoffs. But they are kind of limping into the Four Nations face-off break. They lost their last 3 games, and especially that game against the Seattle Kraken, where they were up 2-0 in that third period, end up losing it in overtime, is just not unacceptable. But overall, I still think that this was a pretty encouraging season. Dustin Wolf has really broken out, but it's definitely right now heading into it. It's okay. This break is going to be definitely needed in terms of a little bit of a reset for this team. The LA Kings, pretty darn happy. They survived the Drew Doughty injury and excelled, if anything, safely in a playoff spot right now in the Western Conference. Pretty darn happy. Minnesota Wild, also pretty darn happy. Yes, Kirill Kaprizov is hurt, but he's going to be ready come playoff time. And because a team like Calgary is stumbling a little bit, they're safely going to make the playoffs. They don't really have to worry that much about Kirill Kaprizov. And if anything, maybe you pull a Mark Stone and trade for a guy and keep him on LTIR until game one. Pretty darn happy if you're a Minnesota Wild fan. Montreal, they're losing. They're losing a lot of games of late. It's been bad. I'm not saying like the overall long-term picture of the Montreal Canadiens is at all affected by this last month or so, but it's definitely a little bit, not mad, but maybe a little bit disappointing that the Montreal Canadiens have kind of fallen out of a playoff spot. Still going to take a positive step. They were a 76-point team last year, probably going to finish around 80 to 84. But yeah, it's a little bit disappointing what has happened recently. Nashville, epitome of need this season to be over. Sell Gustav Nyquist at the deadline. If someone wants to take on Ryan, or someone should take on Ryan O'Reilly if he's available. 2.5 years left at $4.5 million. Anaheim, it's okay. In the standings, they're actually a 500 team, which would surprise a lot of people. It's really just off the backs of the goaltending, though. The skaters have not really taken massive steps that you expect. But, I mean, finding out that Daschle is your franchise goaltender, and as well, that last game that they played, he just went lights out against the LA Kings. You're definitely pretty content if you're an Anaheim Ducks fan as of right now. New Jersey, I'm going to go nervous. They were playing some pretty horrible hockey the last 3 weeks leading into this. It wasn't just the Jacob Markstrom injury, and that definitely doesn't help. Yeah, they got that win against Montreal heading into the break, but still, they've gotten exposed a little bit over the last month or so. So I think you're pretty nervous if you're a New Jersey Devils fan heading into this break. Carolina, it's okay. The Mikko Rantanen trade, I still think he's obviously an upgrade over Martin Natras, but he hasn't exactly been killing it. Carolina, going to be a safe playoff team. Could potentially contend with the addition of Mikko Rantanen, where before that I wasn't really that scared of them. It's okay if you're a Carolina fan. You're pretty neutral right now. My New York Islanders, pretty mad or nervous. It seems like the injuries are finally catching up to them. Lost to Winnipeg, lost to Minnesota. Amazing run for 7 games. What did they go? 8-1 in a 9-game stretch, including a 7-game win streak. But yeah, at this point, it started to scare me because they're a couple points back in the playoffs. It's not like they're getting Barzal, Polak, or Mayfield back anytime soon. So please do something at the deadline in terms of shifting this team up, whether it's trading Brock Nelson, trading Noah Dobson. Don't just run back the same team again and again. I'm pretty damn nervous about what Lou Lamoriello is going to do at the deadline. New York Rangers, you're pretty mad. Similarly to the Boston Bruins, you're definitely more mad than nervous. You're just pretty angry at this team, considering they're now in a wild card. They're behind the 8 ball in a wild card race against Detroit and Ottawa. Imagine telling a New York Rangers fan that was going to happen at the 4 days face-off break. They'd be pretty goddamn pissed. Philadelphia need this season to be over, and Briere basically admitted that when he traded Frost and Farabee. They're trying to tank it up for one more year, hopefully finally get that elite young talent to pair next to Matvei Michkov. Maybe do something with the shit ton of picks that they have this offseason. They have 3 firsts and 4 seconds, but this season's dead, and I think it's the right decision for them. Columbus is tough because overall for the season, it's been awesome, but they just lost Marchenko to a broken jaw. Sean Monahan's going to be out for another 6 to 8 weeks. So again, big picture, it's a smashing success this year, but yeah, they've kind of deflated the last couple weeks. They've been losing some games the last week or so. This injury news has just kind of broke their overall spirit, which is unfortunate. San Jose, I think you're pretty darn happy. I mean, you're getting absolutely dominated in terms of allowing goals, but guys like Celebrini, Smith has really came alive in the last month and a half. It's all about the young guys with this team, not the actual wins and losses. And yeah, I think you're pretty happy with how it's been trending. Buffalo, again, like Nashville, basically the definition of this season needs to end, man. The 13-game losing streak, they've been playing better of late, but they're not even remotely close to being in the Eastern Conference race at this point. Season's over. It's over. The Seattle Kraken, same thought. Make all those moves. Bring in Chandler Stevenson. Bring in Brandon Montour. And they're 12 points back in the final wild card spot. And that's with the Canucks not playing that good. Their season is over. St. Louis, St. Louis is kind of just irrelevant. I know I said that as a New York Islanders fan. I don't even know where to put them. you're not even mad. It's okay, I guess. They're just mid. I don't know. I don't know. Like they didn't have playoff expectations, or it's not like they did anything like that aggressive. I guess you're just like, okay, Dvorsky, Snuggerud next year. Hopefully they elevate this team a sizable amount. I don't know. Tampa Bay, I'll go with pretty darn happy after a 4-0 week, really taking care of business. 2 wins over Ottawa, a win over Detroit to go from a team that was potentially battling for a wild card spot to now pretty safely being in a third Atlantic spot. Not saying that they have that locked up by any stretch, but yeah, that was a massive week heading into that. Vasilevsky has really been dialed in the last month and a half or so. I did an Instagram post of like highest save percentage since the New Year's, and he has like a 926. So yeah, things are starting to hum along for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Toronto, it's okay. Safe playoff team, like with Florida, going to be battling it out for a while for an Atlantic Division spot. And yeah, all that matters is the playoffs. Nothing really matters in the regular season that much. Utah, I'm also going to go with it's okay. They were expected to take a step similarly to a Montreal. They've been playing better the last couple of weeks than a Montreal, who's kind of been falling apart. But yeah, Gunther's an absolute stud. If you're a Utah fan, you're pretty okay heading into this break. Vancouver, I mean, like they've been playing much better since JT Miller got traded. I like, again, a long picture. I'm gonna post this and get shit. But like they're 3-0-1 since the game after. Well, JT Miller got traded like mere minutes before a game, and I think they lost that one. But yeah, I think if you're a Vancouver fan, the team is playing much better and is much more balanced. So I think you're pretty happy heading into this break overall. Not saying that they think they're going to contend at a high level this season, but I think Demko's playing much better in the last week or so. Yeah, I'm going to go with that for them. Vegas Golden Knights, they've been playing pretty shit of late. Yeah, they were in like the President's Trophy race for a while, like a month ago, and now they've kind of been shitting the bed. But they got Brandon Saad. I guess you would maybe put them in. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Still a safe playoff team. You can't trash them too much. Washington Capitals, no shit. They're absolutely loving life. They've been balling, even though they lost their last game to Utah. Getting a point out of the game was nuts. They were down like 4-2 late. Yeah, it's been awesome for Washington. And Winnipeg's on like an 8-game win streak. So they're obviously winning life. These two are the two best teams in the NHL right now. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Oh, I'm not blocking any of these for once. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Again, this is decently influenced by how these teams are playing relative to coming into this break, as well as their overall picture on the season. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.